All right, we're back. My name is Clark Glassford, founder of My Practice Interview, where I help you get hired. And today I want to talk about an age-old interview question, comes out all the time, where the interview starts the interview by saying, tell me about yourself. What do you want to know? I've got a huge history. Do you want to know about my family life, my cat, my dog? Do you want me to go back in time to when I learned how to swim? No, that is not how you answer that question, but I do have the perfect answer with a bit of a formula, how you put an answer together and how you prepare in advance for this question. So I'm going to get to that, but before we do, please like, subscribe, ring the bell so that you don't miss all the videos I post every week on my YouTube channel that give you key insights from an HR insider, true HR insider who's worked in the industry for over 25 years as to how you get hired for your next job. You don't want to miss that. You also don't want to miss the link here and here to the Interview Accelerator Platinum Academy. It's a digital workshop that I put together that help job seekers like yourself navigate the tricky world of preparing for your interview. I go over everything. How to answer questions like I'm going to go through today, how to prepare in advance, practice, how to answer behavioral questions, how to impress the hiring manager. There is so much content here. It is the most direct way for you to prepare for your next interview so that when you get to that interview, you sail through that interview, you hear those magic words, you're hired. Do not miss the digital course. It will save you time. It'll save you money to make more money. Don't miss it. But you know what? We're running out of time. We got to get going here. Let's move on to answering the age-old question. Tell me about yourself. Are you ready? I am. Here we go. So we're talking about the question that almost always gets asked in one way, shape, or form, which is tell me about yourself. Now, why do interviewers like myself ask that question? Really easy. It's basically an icebreaker. I'm asking you that question as an icebreaker to get you loosened up in the interview. I just want to hear a little bit about yourself so you can loosen up, you can start talking. I know interviews are not a natural environment. They're not a comfortable place to be. So by asking what I perceive as being a very simple, straightforward question to you will get you talking and get you loosened up so that I can get the best information out of you in that interview. Problem is, a lot of people don't prepare for this question and don't prepare very well. So I ask the question and they go down a tangent of talking about all their pets that they had growing up and, vacations they've been on and things like that, or long job history that's completely irrelevant to the role they've applied for. So I want to give you some key tips here today as to how you answer this question. I've got a script. It's going to be awesome as to how you can put forward an answer to this. Okay. So the best way to talk about an answer to this is by answering why you're the best for the job. That is a key distinction you want to make in providing your answer. You want to provide an overview of your work history, both your present work history and your past. As it relates to this role, you want to be able to research the company, of course, that you've applied for, because in your answer, you want to be able to link your work history to what they're asking for. And then in the last part is, of course, demonstrating your communication skills. You want to make that connection with the hiring manager, making sure that they can hear you clearly articulate the value you bring to the role you've applied for. So that's the loose way of structure your answer. Now let's get into specifics, okay? So here's the formula. Part one of the formula is talk about your present. So talk about the role you're currently in, how it relates to the job that you're applying for, and some of your key accomplishments. As a recruiter, that's what I want to hear. The stuff you did 10, 20, 15 years ago is really not as relevant to me for the most part as the current things you're doing in your job. So make sure you talk about the present, your role, and the key accomplishments within that role. That is how you start your answer. The second part of that answer is talk about the past. Okay, so now we can go back to 5, 10, 15 years ago, but we're not giving a fulsome description, walking me right through your employment history tree there. You're picking out key things that you think are important for me to know as that interviewer in terms of what is relevant in those roles to the job you've applied for. Then you've talked about present, you've talked about past. Well, what's left? Future. So what's in the future? What do you see yourself bringing to this role in the future with all your key skills and abilities for the job? So you want to talk about why you're excited about this role and what key things you bring to the job that are so important, okay? So that's the 3 steps. Let's talk about present, past and future. So, some other key tips in terms of answering this question. First impressions are key, okay? This is what sets the stage for your interview. I'm asking you this question right out of the gate, and I want to see whether you've given it some thought, whether you're going to be the right person for this role. So the way you answer this really sets the stage for the rest of your interview. So first impressions are really important, and that's why you need to be able to prepare for this type of question in advance. Next, tailor your response, okay? So I've talked about practicing, and that's another tip I'm going to talk about in a minute, but you want to tailor your response. So it's not just some standard canned answer for any job interview you go on. It's tailored specifically to the organization and the role you've applied for. So make sure you're adapting your answer as you go to different interviews with different employers through applying to different roles. Next, know your audience, okay? So this is part of your research. You should know in advance of your interview who's meeting you, what hiring manager, the name of that hiring manager, or if it's a panel of people, who's on that panel. You'll want to do some of that research on LinkedIn. Find out who they are, what they're all about. Any little pieces from their work history or things like that that you can add in just so you know in advance of that interview. That's what helps you make a connection when you're talking about, tell me about yourself. And when you're giving that answer, you may have ways to link some of the things you're describing to some of the people on the interview panel. So know your audience. Also, when I talk about knowing your audience, know your audience by visually looking around the room, making sure you're reading body cues, body language, things like that that will indicate whether you're on the right track with your answer. Maybe you need to pivot a little bit. Maybe you need to add some more detail that they're looking for. It's always a good opportunity to ask any point in that answer to say, is there anything else you'd like me to highlight right now that I've just covered that you'd like a bit more information on? Remember, interviews can be a two-way conversation. It just doesn't always need to be you speaking. You definitely don't lose points for asking for clarity along the way. So knowing your audience, asking some probing questions will be very helpful to give a fulsome response. Speak with passion. That's the next tip here. So again, you don't want to be in an interview setting where you're talking like a robot who has just come up with a script and you're repeating that script. Talk about how excited you are about where you currently are and where you want to be with this organization. Passion is what connects you to that interviewer. Start picturing a future of you within that role, within the organization. So that passion that you bring to the interview with your answer are the things that start making that positive first impression, eventually lead to you getting hired. Don't ramble. That's the next tip. Make sure you're not just going on and on and on. This big long story. Your answer really for this type of question, for the most part, should be in that 3 to 5 minute range. At the most, for more senior positions, they're going to want to hear probably a little bit longer than that, but this isn't a 15-20 minute answer here, okay? So don't ramble. Make sure your answer is concise. Make sure, again, you know who your audience is so you can keep your answer concise to your audience, and make sure at the end of your answer, you can always ask the interviewer or interview panel if there's anything else you'd like to highlight or expand on. Really key stuff there. Practice, but don't memorize. That's the next tip. Practice, but don't memorize. So if you've seen my videos before, it's all about practice. Practice makes perfect. But a lot of the times when we practice, we just start memorizing and then we come across as robotic. You don't want to be like that. So in terms of practice, write out a response, practice saying it out loud, but don't get to the point where you've fully memorized it, because in any interview, things can change, probing questions can get asked, you can be thrown off by all sorts of different things. So just make sure you practice so you come in with confidence and you can give your answer, but it doesn't sound all rehearsed or memorized, okay? Last piece here, keep it positive, all right? And what do I mean by that? So your answer should be positive by, especially when you're talking about either your current employer or previous employers, when you're giving this overview of tell me about yourself, make sure you're keeping it positive. As a recruiter, red flags go off for me anytime I hear an applicant say, well, my current employer is a jerk, I don't like my boss, we don't get along, all those things. There's of course ways to phrase an answer if those in fact are the cases, but you don't want to be stating those outright, okay? So keep your answer positive, always on the positive, always showing your passion, always showing your excitement. Now, as I talked about, I have a script. It's, again, a loose script. You can follow along with it. You can tailor it to your needs. It just gives you a bit of a flavor as to how you can answer this question. It's short and sweet. I would expect your answer is going to be longer than this, but it gives you a little bit of a framework as to how I would respond to a question like this. Okay, so here's the script. I've always been interested in technology and have spent the past 5 years working in software development. I've been involved in several projects that have improved the user experience and saved the company significant time and resources. I'm excited to continue to innovate and contribute to the industry. I'm always looking for new ways to innovate and improve products and services. In my last role, I developed a new app feature that increased user engagement by 25%. I am excited to bring this creative problem-solving approach to a new company. So very simple script. Obviously that was like 10-15 seconds, but it gives you a bit of a flavor as to how you can answer a question like that. I'd want you to expand, of course, on your answer there, but you want to talk with passion, you want to talk with enthusiasm, you want to talk about present, past, future, what you're going to do, your accomplishments. That will lead to an incredibly powerful response that will start your interview off on the right foot, have you sailing through your interview, so at the end of it, you're hearing those words, you are hired. So with that, that's this week's topic. I hope you've enjoyed it. Again, like, subscribe, check out all the links in the comments below. And like I always say, keep rocking your interviews. Until next time, peace.